Hey, this is Tanya Jackson. Welcome back to today's Black Grandmothers podcast. So this week, um, I want to share something a little personal with you all. I did a little bit something different for myself, and I was part of a 3-day boot camp and with Dr. Marcia Whitaker, and it was very revealing for me. And what I realized is that I had been carrying, what I realized over the 3 days is I had been carrying um, pain for over 30 years and even longer that um, I had been talking about it, but I never really, really dug deep and really figured out what my pain was and how I was using it to help other people. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, um, some things that I revealed as I was going through it. And so, I've had loss. I am I started Voices of Black Grandmothers because, you know, um, becoming a grandmother, my daughter was a teen mom, and, I wrote down, you know, I think about 13, 14, 15 things that through my life that I had experienced. And a lot of times we don't realize that our pain is, sometimes we suppress it and we put it to the back of our minds. We know that we've gone through it, but we suppress it because we're in survival mode. We tend to survive. So, one of the things was facing versus hiding pain. So, um, in the 3 days that I went through this, I was forced to stop hiding and face it. And it brought up emotions that I hadn't felt in a long time. And so I realized that, through this 3 days, I felt that it was a safe space for a release. Um, because as I talked about it and I thought about it, each evening after, that healing doesn't happen in isolation. Um, a lot of times when you're a part of a community, you begin to realize that you're not alone. You're not the only one that is going through the pain that you have, and not saying that everyone's pain is the same. People grieve differently. People deal with trauma differently. People deal with things in a different way. But once you realize that you're not alone and you can speak freely in a space, you know, you're able to really talk about, what you've been through. And so, like what I've done with Voices of Black Grandmothers, when we would have empowerment group meetings, I created a safe space for, women to talk about, their loss and talk about, being a grandmother and raising their grandchildren and whatever, you know, um, conversations would come up. Because and what I would see is that a lot of women would get that aha moment where they realize that I'm not the only one. I feel so much better. I can now talk about my pain. So we tend to um, mask we mask our pain with strength. So, for instance, I spent years being the strong one, you know, strength, and I realized that strength is not always silence. Strength is allowing yourself to break and rebuild. And so, we carry this weight of always being strong and not realizing that at some point you're going to break. And sometimes, breaking could be your breakthrough, but sometimes people they put on this mask of strength and they hold it in and they come to a point where they just can't take it anymore, or they come to a point where it starts to affect their everyday life. It starts to affect their family, their work, their business, and everything. And so a breakthrough doesn't have a timeline. Um, we think healing has to take years. Sometimes it just takes the right moment, the right people, the right tools. And that's how I felt during this 3-day event. Was I felt like I was in the right space to do it. I felt like, because when I listed out my pain, and I wrote my power statement, what I realized is that I had to dig deep and think about what it was that that pain, what it caused for me. And I was able to say, I felt like I would be judged as a bad mother. I felt like um, people would not agree with my decision on supporting my daughter. I felt like, there were just, I felt like my dreams no longer mattered. I felt like, it's not about me anymore. It's not about my life anymore. It's about their life. And I have to give up and sacrifice everything that I wanted, that I've had, um, to do this. And so as we, from day to day, as we talked about more and more, we came, I came to the conclusion that my pain had a purpose. And every loss, every heartbreak, was carrying a lesson that I couldn't see until I poured it out. And now I see my purpose. And now, I've always known what my purpose was, but now I'm stronger in my purpose because I have released that pain that I've been carrying, because I've always thought about other people. I've always thought about helping other people. I put myself on the side because I figured I have a story. My story is going to help other people, so let me help other people. But there's a point that you get to where helping other people is not working anymore, because in order to help other people, you have to be clear about where you are. There's a thing, that I heard through all my coaching years and listening to speakers and things like that, is when you can tell your story and you're not ball out crying. Now I'm gonna tell you, tears welled up. My voice got shaky as I was telling my story to the group. Um, but you got to think about, are you really healed, or are you healing? When you're telling your story, think about the emotions that you're feeling when you're telling your story. You know, are your emotions, is it a feeling of release, or is it a feeling of deep darkness that you're going back into? Think about, as you're telling your story, think about what those feelings are. Mine was a sense of relief. It was uplifting. It was empowering. I now am more clear on my vision, my mission, and where I'm headed. Grief doesn't go away. It changes form. So over 30 years, you know, um, I just carried it differently. But when my situation happened, I went through all the stages of grief. And when I finally came to acceptance was the point where I launched. I launched Voices of Black Grandmothers. I launched the platforms that I have built. I launched the movement that I built, because I gotten to that point of acceptance. But I never went back to my why. I never went back and revisited my why completely like I did this week. So, emptying and refilling. When you pour out pain, you must refill it with love, joy, rest, and purpose. Otherwise, you stay empty. And so, since this week, um, I've had conversations with my daughter. I've had conversations with myself, like, what do I really want to do now? Where am I really going? So I am empowered to raise the bar to my next level to help women that may be feeling the same way I've been feeling, carrying that pain for years and years and years, and never really stopping to dig in and realize where that pain is coming from. How do I deal with this pain? How am I managing? Am I hiding this? Because sometimes, now you'll hear a lot about triggers. Throughout the years, there are certain things that will trigger you. There are certain things that will happen, and it's weird because um, triggers could be anything from a smell, a certain smell that's related to that trauma that you went through. It could be a certain situation. You know how they call things deja vu. And you're in this space and you're like, I've been here before. That could be the pain that you have deep down inside that is like gurgling around, and but what you're going to do is you're going to keep suppressing it because it's like, I can't deal with this right now. I can't deal with this right now. um so breaking the silence of your pain gives you freedom. Your freedom begins at that point. And what that freedom is going to mean to you, it'll mean different things to you. Maybe you'll be able to communicate better with your family, your friends, your work. Maybe it will empower you to, if like you've been wanting to start a business or you've been wanting to take that trip or whatever it is, but it will give you a certain level of freedom, a certain feeling of freedom. Once you got to empty in order to refill. A full cup cannot take any more in. You've got to empty some of that out in order to fill it up even more. So then you get to a point of accountability in healing. And the accountability piece is the community space. And the community space gave me tools and reminded me, this is a journey, not an event. And this is a journey that I'm on. And so I began, as of this week, redefining myself. I'm not broken, I'm becoming. And that's what those 3 days taught me. And so, what I say to you is, if you've been carrying 5, 10, or even 30 years of pain, of grief, of trauma, I want you to know healing doesn't have to take forever. Sometimes your breakthrough is just on the other side of giving yourself permission to pour it out. And I want to welcome you into my space. And I want to, if this has helped you in any way, please comment below. If you want to work with me with, you know, you know, going through the process that I've gone through, you can reach out to me. And I will put you in one of my communities, or I can have a one-on-one with you. But know when it's your time to start living again, to start feeling free again, to lift that weight off your shoulders of the pain that you've been carrying for years and years and years. And you would be amazed what you can do when you begin to break your silence and move into that freedom. Thank you, and I will see you in the next episode.